What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am able to bring you a profile for Fairy Tail Magistus. Now Magistus is probably the best way to play the deck right now. Yes, in Battles of Legend that come out this week, we do also get the kind of like additional Endymion cards, but we're missing one card, which is the OCG, I believe it was like a V-Jump promo. I'd still highly advise you pick those cards up because there is Regulus, there is a quick play spell card and a continuous spell card that you're going to need for the engine, so that when we do get Veer, hopefully in Chaos Origins, you're going to be adding them into this deck as well, and it can kind of let you reduce the Magistus involvement. Another variant of this deck that you could really quite utilize if you want to keep a budget down and you don't want to buy into the Magistus is you could consider cards like the Charmer deck as well, because that will give you a bit more access. Like there are monsters with 1850 attack, which is what your Fairy Tail Luna wants to do. Fairy Tail Luna was actually in the Charmer structure decks as well, so it kind of shows you that little bit of synergy between the two as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the profile, show you what we've got, explain why we've got it, and then if you want to see the Charmer version of the deck, get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, and I'll be more than happy to bring that for you. So diving headfirst into the profile, we're going to start off with the Fairy Tail Luna. This card is just even more insane now. It was one of my cards I really like to play in, it was a card that I used to like to play in Dark Lords. It was also a card that I used to play in a deck that didn't require a normal summon, just because it would search out a monster with 1850, so usually you would just search out Fairy Tail Snow, but it lets you add any spellcaster monsters. It can even add a second copy of itself, and the reason I played it in Dark Lords is you would go Luna, and then it would replace itself, and then it gives you that ability as well to have a nice disruption. So once per turn during either player's turn, target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Your opponent can send one card with that monster's name from the deck or extra deck to the graveyard to negate this effect. Otherwise, you return both to the hand, which is actually quite useful because if there was ever a one-of that your opponent never played, or if there was a card they played multiple of, they had to make that sacrifice of their grind card if they wanted to. But mainly what you want to do is in your normal summon, you add a spellcaster with 1050 attack. So one of the cards you can go to is the brand new Yugioh. So if a spellcaster monster with the original attack of 1850 is on the field, you special summon this card from the hand or graveyard. You can't special summon from the rest of the turn except spellcasters, which is absolutely fine in this deck anyway, and then again it'll be absolutely fine in the Charmer version. So on top of that as well, if this card is normal or special, you get to add a Fairy Tail spell or trap or a Fairy Tail Tails from your deck to the hand. You can gain 500 life points. The name of one effect monster your opponent controls becomes Prince of Fairies, which is quite useful because then you'll basically turn any of your opponent's monsters into a super poly target. Great success. Then we are playing the newly returned Fairy Tail Snow. So on normal or special, target a face-up monster on the field and change it to face-down defense position. Quick effect in the graveyard, banish 7 other cards from the hand, field, and or grave to special summon this card. So Snow is what Snow is. Like, being the Book of Moon used to be one of the biggest annoyances for the deck, but then once it was utilised as basically just mill fodder off of the back of Telements, it just became such an incredibly powerful card that it's been a card that's been put onto the Forbidden Limited list, come back, been put back on it, and now it's come back to 1. So, and then a card that might as well be a TCG exclusive Fairy Tail is the Yugioh of the Ring. So if this card's in the hand, you get to target a face-up monster on the field, special on this card. Also, that target becomes a spellcaster. The next time that target would be destroyed by a card effect, this turn it is not destroyed. You can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except spellcasters. And if this card is tributed or banished to activate a spellcaster monster's effect, you get to add a card to your add this card to the hand. So again, it recycles itself. I think 2 is plenty enough as it is. There are ways that you can search this out, but you kind of want to put yourself in a position where it's like, right, I've got Fairy Tail Luna on my hand, but I either have the Yugioh or I have the Yugioh. And then you search out the other one you don't have, and then you've got 3 level 4s straight away that you can extend to and play. Moving on to the other Fairy Tail cards, we've got the free Fairy Tail Ball. This is the field spell. This also does allow you to utilise Secret Village of the Spellcasters, set rotation within reason, and also terraforming. Now I think that's going to be even more important once we get the new Toon cards, because if you're looking at the OCG kind of metagame right now, Toons are doing pretty well. And what I liked about this is for the pure fact that this one on activation adds a Fairy Tail monster or a Fairy Tail Tails from the deck or banishment to the hand, so giving you direct access to your Fairy Tail Luna. And as you've seen, that is your ideal starter, and if you already have the Fairy Tail Luna, well, then this just becomes Fairy Tail Snow Searcher, which is pretty good. But it also can get you your Yugioh, and then it can get you any other Fairy Tail monster that you want to play. Now, unfortunately, like I've mentioned previously, the best way to play this deck is with the Magistus right now, so you can't really call it a pure Fairy Tail deck, even though there are 3 other Fairy Tail monsters that do exist, but they all have like weird effects. One of them is a flip effect, one of them is, I think your opponent gets to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and they add one of those cards to your hand, and you shuffle the rest into the deck, which is kind of nice, probably the most likely one you're going to go. And then the other one gets you access to an equip spell, which makes sense with the next card being Tales of the Fairy Tales. Before I go on to this one, I'm going to finish this one effect off as well. So your Fairy Tail monsters can attack directly, and then once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster and you control a Fairy Tail monster, except during damage step, target effect monster your opponent controls negates its effects, and its name becomes Prince of the Fairy. So again, setting you up your Super Poly targets. Going back over to the Tales of the Fairy Tales, the equip monster gains 1000 attack. Once per turn during your main phase, you get to fusion summon a spellcaster fusion from your extra deck using monsters from the hand, field, and/or grave. Or Prince of the Fairies your opponent controls as material. If this card is in your graveyard, you can equip this card to a Fairy Tail monster on the field. Then immediately after the effect resolves, you get to normal summon a spellcaster with 1850 attack. So it's really important that it normal summons them, because you will get your cards like your Fairy Tail Luna that only trigger on normal summon. But being able to utilize this as a fusion play, also being able to go into any spellcaster can open you up the doors to get into some of your Magistus fusion monsters as well, which is really useful. Then the final Fairy Tail spell we play is the Once Upon a Fairy Tale. Quick play, special on up to 1 light Fairy Tail monster each from your hand, grave, and banishment with different names. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except spellcasters. If this card is banished or sent to the graveyard except from the field, you get to set this card, but it cannot be activated unless you control a Fairy Tail monster. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now, it's really important this is up to 1, so it could be an extender if you only have 1 card, but it also gives you that ability that if you wanted to flood the field with 3 level 4 monsters, you can do. Now, we're only playing 3 Fairy Tail monsters, being Snow, Luna, and Magistus, but also remember as well that Luna only triggers on normal summon. You can still get its bounce effect, which is quite nice, but that's just something to keep in mind. Then for the Magistus, pretty standard, free Spenter. This is a card you can kind of reduce a little bit once we get into the Regulus cards, because you'll be playing like 3 Regulus of Endymion, 1 of the quick play spell card, and then you can afford to play 1 or 3 of the continuous spell cards as well. And it basically just sets you up with a nice bit of negation and extension. I've got the 1 Zoroa, the 1 Rilliona, and the 1 Crowley. Now, obviously, Rilliona as well can also be one that could be sacrificed, but the idea behind this engine is that you're just going to get your consistency. You've got your Crowley for the fuse, you've got your Zoroa for the extension plays, you've got Rilliona for your searching plays, and then, of course, you've got your Spenter as just your 1-card starter. So, discarding this card lets you activate one of the fun effects to add a Magistus monster from the deck to the hand except itself, or you can halve an attack of one of your opponent's monsters. Better going first or better being used as the extender card, because what you're trying to work up to and what you're trying to get to when you're playing the Renola for your search of the spell and Crowley and everything else in between is Verde Magic Lacrima of Light. It's always treated as a Magistus and a Witchcraft card. Activate one of these effects, but you can only use each of the effects once per turn. If you try a Magistus or a Witchcraft monster, send a spellcaster or a spell from your deck to the grave. The secondary effect is when your opponent activates a card or effect, special on a Magistus or Witchcrafter from the hand or deck. But more times than not, you want to use the first effect, because that's going to allow you to send the Witchcrafter Guinea. During the main phase quick effect, tribute this card and discard a spell card, special on a Witchcrafter. Not going to be doing that. But what you will be doing is banishing this card from the graveyard and a Witchcrafter spell, which this is always treated as, from the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. So again, it just gives you the ability to send another spellcaster from deck to grave or a spell from deck to grave. And also remember as well, you can just send Snow directly from deck to grave and you're setting it up. Then for the non-engine, we've got 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Fuelos, 2 Droll Not Bird, 1 Dimension Shifter. Now these are spellcasters. They're searchable in the deck. It's pretty crazy. And when you play a card as powerful as Fairy Tail Snow, you can clear your own graveyard off, so you've got no cards in the graveyard, and use Dimension Shifter at any point in your turn, which is pretty impressive. Then I've got with breakers of 2 Forbidden Droplet, 3 Super Polymerization, and then just some really fun cards right now in the form of the Metamorphosis and the Instant Fusion. So the Metamorphosis will let you turn any of your level 4s into any of your level 4 fusion monsters, being Weaver or Teller, which we'll get to in a minute. And obviously Instant Fusion can search out either of these, or special summon out either of these. So I just like the fact that you could use the Metamorphosis And I think it's a card that might be able to come back to 3. We're going to see how this one plays out right now, but I'm quite happy to have it at 1 right now. And then the final card is Called by the Grave because, you know, protect yourself from particular type of hand traps that can really stop you dead. Now, you can take out the breakers with the droplets and the super polymerizations if you wanted to, and you can kind of sub them out for more non-engines. You've got like your Ghost Spells, Ghost Ogres if you want to go down that route. Honestly, I quite like having the breaker option. I like super polymerization in this deck. I do play a dedicated super polymerization target as well as the other targets you can utilize, but you can lean more into it if you wanted to. So moving on to the extra deck, we are playing 1 Teller and 1 Weaver. 1-on-1 is all you're going to need. So this requires a light Fairy Tale monster and a spellcaster. Fairy Tale monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, only as each of the following effects once per turn. If it is Fusion Summoned using Prince of the Fairies, which you make your opponent monster become a Prince of the Fairies, as material, you get to destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible. If you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, banish a Fairy Tale card from your hand or grave, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So very nice protector. I really like that card. And then you've got the Weaver, which again is a Fairy Tale monster plus a spellcaster. All Prince of the Fairies on the field become spellcaster monsters. So again, make your opponent monster a Prince of the Fairies. This then turns into a spellcaster, and happy days, you've got your Teller. During the main phase, you get to special summon a Fairy Tale monster, or during your main phase to be specific. Special summon a Fairy Tale monster from the deck or banishment. You can only use each effect once per turn. If you normal or special a non-Earth Fairy Tale monster, while this card is in your monster zone, except during damage step, target an effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, and its name becomes Prince of the Fairies. Now, before I continue the rest of the fusions, we'll show you the only other Fairy Tale monster we play in the extra deck, being the Fairy Tale Wicket. So 2 level 4 spellcasters, nice and generic. That's where your Yugioh of the Ring is going to come into play. It's also where your Magistus is going to come into play as well. So each Fairy Tale monster you control whose original attribute is light is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Only use each of the following effects once per turn. Detach up to 2 materials from this card. Send Fairy Tale cards from the deck to the grave equal to the number detached. If this card is in the graveyard, quick effect, target a Fairy Tale monster you control whose original attribute is light and special on this card. If you do, send that monster to the graveyard. So switch it around with Snow and then get you some protection set up. Then for the Magistus cards, we've got the 1 Chorozo, the 1 Weiss. You don't have to play a Weiss. A Weiss is kind of like the flexible option if you wanted to double up some of your Super Poly targets. But I still think it's really, really useful. Another card you can play is the Invoked Macabre as well, because your Crowley treats itself as Alistair the Invoker. So we've got the 1 Zora the Magistus. This is obviously your Omni-Negate option. My dedicated Super Poly target is Sea Monster Ephesius. This is purely in here for cool tunes, of course. You don't have to play this. It can be completely cuttable. You can go for Garura, you can go for Mud Dragon if you want to be a bit more generic. But the events I'm expecting to go to, there's going to be at least 3 cool tune monsters, cool tune decks, not monsters, because then that would be a bit unbalanced. But then on top of that as well, the local environment also has decks like Red Dragon Archfiend and Blue Eyes as well. So multiple tuners is not uncommon where I go to play, but you can very easily take this out and change it up if you need to. Then for the rest of the Magistus cards, he's got the 1 Renola. This one you get to, it's a generic, well not generic, it's a spellcaster rank 4. It has to have 2 spellcasters with different attributes. Detach material from this card to special on a Magistus monster from the deck. You can't special on a monster from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Magistus monsters. While this card is equipped to a monster, you get to target an effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn, or use each effect once per turn. The other rank 4 Magistus you can use will be the Spell and Trap Destructor. It's entirely up to you whether you want to play both or one or the other. Then we've got for the Link monsters that are the Magistus, we've got the 1 Endymion, the Crescent Magistus, and we've got the 2 Artemis. So pretty standard on this one. Going back to the XZs, I've got the 1 Alchemic Magician. So this is a little bit expensive right now, but it's completely optional. It's just because it hasn't had a single reprint. I think it's had like 1 print. Needs 3 level 4 spellcasters. So in the exact same combo of like Luna, if you've already opened up the Match Guru or the Gina, is you just basically get to extend into this card. Gains 200 attack for each spell card in the grave. Once per turn during the end phase, detach an XYZ material from this card and send 1 card from the hand to the grave. Choose any spell card from your deck and set it into your spell and trap zone. So that's going to give you direct access for stuff like Mistaken Arrest or any kind of spell cards that are going to be useful during your opponent's turn. You obviously ideally want to be going directly for a quick play, and this is just the card that enhances your consistency for your side deck if you're using cards like that. So again, get Forbidden Droplet, Fallen on the Virtue if you want to go down that route. It gives you a bit more. It can also get you the Veer, but I think there are better options than just going directly for that one. Then we have Selene, Summon Sorceress, like this card being back, it's finally being played. Yeah. Now, this is actually old text, or the unerrated text, but the idea with Summon Sorceress is you can get cards to your opponent's spells and trap zone, and when you're giving your opponent spellcasters, they then ultimately end up becoming super poly targets. They can become Magistus Torozo targets. It just sets you up with the abilities to get direct access to be able to return cards like Draw Unlock Bird or Dimension Shifter or cards like that. And then the final card is Charmer Quartet in Bloom. So gains 300 attack for each different attribute on the field. Once per turn, while this card is face up on the field. During the main phase, quick effect, target 2 monsters in your graveyard with the same attribute but different types, or with the same type but different attributes, special on both. Until the end of the next turn, this card and those special monsters cannot be used as material for a fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link. Now again, remember when you're able to utilize that, you're able to target either 2 spellcasters that are different attributes. So when you're looking at stuff like, and don't take these directly because I know they are exactly the same, but these are your lights spellcasters, wherever he may be. You've then got the fire spellcaster. You've then got a earth spellcaster. You've got another light spellcaster. And then you've got a dark spellcaster. So you've got loads of different attributes, but the same types. And it just gives you the option to either bring back your Magistus for follow-ups for the next turn, or it lets you bring back your Fairy Tale monsters. It can kind of give you different options to give you into rank 4 plays. And it just can be very, very nice. Now, obviously, the turn they're summoned, they can't be used as the rank 4 play. But the other is you're bringing back cards that are going to set you up with disruption. So in an ideal scenario, you go Luna. You've got your Zoroa, and you don't even really need to use the Zoroa as material, just use the effect to equip a monster to it, or equip a monster to the field, and then off you go. So it's still ways to get you where you need to go once you set them up, but I quite like the Quartet in Bloom. It's odd that it's also 1850 for a Link 4. I think that might be, apart from, I don't know if a Link 4 exists that has 0 attack. I could be wrong, there must be one out there, but it seems a little bit weird on that one. Anyway, that's it for the entire profile. If you want to see like a dedicated combo video or even a test hand video for this deck, then by all means let me know in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to do that for you. I'm currently waiting on my Tellarknight cards and Shaddoll cards to turn up, and my new Synchron cards from Battles of Legend, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to put them together in a video for you all to see. And then I'm still waiting on a couple of Predaplant cards as well. So once they turn out, I'll be able to do either a pure Predaplant deck, or one that I'm looking forward to is doing a Black Rose Predaplant deck, because I think that's kind of really cool. It has some nice overlapping synergies, and it works really well in Modern and Genesis. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions at all, don't forget to put them in the comments down below, and I'll always be more than happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.